All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Awaken Happiness Now Global Series. Thank you so much for being here with us today. If you're new to me, Shefaliburns, new to my channel on YouTube, new to my shows, please do subscribe. It is my deepest wish, desire, and intention to bring to you these amazing, wonderful speakers who are sharing their wisdom, their teachings, their experiences, their processes, their readings, their everything for us, so that we can all thrive, so that we can all awaken to happiness now. And so today, my dear friend Denise Mange is back with us, and we're going to be talking about what pets know about unleashing confidence and conviction. And so, some of what we're going to explore today is how animal companions reflect our subconscious patterns and help us shift limiting beliefs, the ways our pets remind us to take up space and confidently own our presence, how animal communication can teach us to trust our intuition and express ourselves authentically, the energetic exchange between humans and pets and what it reveals about our own emotions and boundaries, and simple practices to tune into your pet's wisdom and deepen your intuitive connection. Of course, like always, Denise will be offering some mini readings live on the call. We love those readings. Oh, I know you all do too. She's so spot on, amazing, amazing. So if you don't know Denise, she's been with us many times now. She's a pet expert, a pet intuitive, and founder of Pet Prana. Denise is a certified dog trainer and pet intuitive, and after decades of working at some of the most prestigious advertising agencies in New York City, Denise left Madison Avenue to work with pets and their humans, eventually creating her own mindful pet lifestyle brand, Pet Prana, combining traditional training techniques with energetic considerations of pet guardianship. Denise's work highlights how everyday interactions with our pets have the power to transform us. And that is so, so true. And Denise, we're always so happy to have you back. So everyone join me in welcoming Denise back to the show. Denise,
Oh,
welcome.
thank you for having me. It's always such a homecoming to come back to the Soul Pack, and we get to have these fun conversations about dogs, cats, birds, fish, any pet under the sun, and even animals in the wild, right? So even if you don't have an animal companion living in your home with you, all of these conversations are just as pertinent with, animals that we encounter in our day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are here live with us, we are going to be taking some live caller questions and a little bit later. So you can raise your hand or you can type your question in the chat. We may not be able to take as many as we normally do, but we will try and get to as many as we can. So, I always laugh when we talk about training. There are some breeds that, there's nothing you can do. You cannot train them at all. They are stubborn, they have their own set ways, they are just the cutest little bundles of fur, but who don't listen, right? So everybody knows my Neo is a very good boy, but does not listen for shit. So just gonna say that he listens when he wants to, and when he doesn't want to, he doesn't.
Yeah. And that teaches us a little something about conviction, right? What we're going to talk about today, talking about confidence, conviction, taking up space. And any of us who has an animal companion, we know what it is to take up space when you're a pet, right? I mean, how many times have you been sleeping in bed and you're on the tiny little bit of bed because your pet has come up and just kind of pushed you over little by little? Some of my favorite dogs are the ones who sleep with you with their head on a pillow as if they're human, just looking at you. If we're working and our cats are sitting on us, we don't even breathe. We don't leave to go to the bathroom. We just forget lunch at that point, right? They're taking up space. They're super confident about it, which is such an endearing aspect of our animal companions. But what we're here to talk about today goes even beyond that, right? Because as much as our pets, they won't listen to us, that's conviction. As much as our pets, take up space and sprawl out all over us or take up the entire bed, that's cute and adorable, but taking up space energetically is a completely different skill. But through our everyday interactions, we're able to really harness what that means through the collaboration of our animal companions. And especially in those moments where they're, being contrarian, where they're not doing everything exactly as we'd like to see it, because those are opportunities for us to find our confidence, find our leadership, to step into our conviction and learn to take up space, right?
Hmm. So it's a little bit we're talking a little bit about boundaries and a little bit about you know I'm the boss. which I am so bad at boundaries, and I'm so bad at being the boss. Like, you know, Neo is like my child, so I treat Neo the same way as I treated my grown children now.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't have boundaries with them
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, they trained me really well.
And that's something that, as a lot of pet parents, we are so empathic. So boundaries are tough, right? And I'm not going to say that I have the nut cracked, because I absolutely do not, right? It's something that I have to work on daily basis. I'm lucky to work with so many different pets and pet parents. So I get to talk about it a lot, in my day to day. And one thing that was really interesting, I was trying to figure out, all right, when we talk about confidence, about conviction, about taking up space, what does that actually mean energetically? And there was this one phase where I went through just this, I had this voracious desire to consume biopics. I wanted to see documentaries. I wanted to
Mm.
see, what made Jane Goodall, what made Lance Armstrong, what made, Dolly Parton, Steve Jobs, like all these amazing biopics out there. And, one thing which was really interesting, that was kind of a common thread that I took away, is that all of these people, for good or bad, they had no self doubt. And self doubt is going to be very different to, having no self awareness. That's going to be a distinction we'll talk about later. But they didn't have self doubt. They were comfortable taking up space and to stand in their convictions. And so, one common thread that was at the base of it all that I found was this notion of confidence, right? And the first step in creating confidence in ourselves is going to be loyalty to self, right? Always acting out of loyalty to self. And that doesn't necessarily mean being self indulgent, doing things on our timeline, doing everything we want. In fact, sometimes it's going to be treating ourselves with a little bit of tough love, right? Being loyal to yourself, first and foremost, and one of the simplest ways can be in terms of committing to do things for you that are going to contribute to your wellness. So it might be something like committing that you're going to go work out, you're going to go do exercise, you're going to get your body moving, even if you don't want to. It might be committing to yourself that you're not going to stop by and get fast food, right? You're going to make sure that all your meals are nourishing and healthy, even when it's not that convenient, right? Committing to yourself and being loyal to yourself has a lot to do with making time for yourself, prioritizing yourself, which also has an aspect of sometimes that means you have to deprioritize others' needs. And even if you own your own business, so many of us are spiritual entrepreneurs, or we have our own job or our own side gig. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from a fellow consultant was, he told me, because I was just getting so overwhelmed and just, taking on, having that really good corporate mentality, which serves you really well in corporate. And he was like, Denise, the one piece of advice I give you is when you wake up in the morning, do your work first. Whatever you need to do, you get that done, and then you work on the client's project. And the reason for that is so many of us can relate to, if I need to stay up till 5 in the morning to get my client's work done, I will do that, no problem. And I will do that with flying colors. But if it means staying up till 5 in the morning to get my personal work done, which isn't accountable to anyone else, I'm not going to be that, enthused or consistent about it. So, bottom line is this notion of being loyalty to self really does entail a commitment to your needs, even when it means deprioritizing others. And, our animal companions are really good at helping us with this. One of the biggest behaviors that they teach us, this loyalty to self and balancing our needs with other people's needs, including their needs, is separation anxiety. So if your pet has separation anxiety and is requiring a lot of you, a lot of what they're doing is helping you to build your confidence by committing and being more loyal to yourself. And what that also does is it helps us create a sense of what will we accept, right? Similarly to the food example. If we're willing to, for ourselves, just stuff our face with fast food rather than commit to actually preparing a nutritious meal for ourselves, we're saying like, all right, I'm going to fuel myself with anything out there on a consistent, regular basis. think about the energetics of that. You're telling the universe, I'll accept whatever. It doesn't matter what I put in myself, right? So even as we work with our animal companions and we start to prioritize ourselves, in that process, we're going to be amazed by the shifts that we see even more broadly in our lives about, patterns around what we're willing to accept, how people treat us, the time that people share with us, so much more stems from that. And as we become more confident, as we're, only accepting good, nutritious food, activities, relationships, energy, now we're more confident to be that benevolent leader to ourselves, our pets, and others. And one thing I will say is, I'm so fortunate to be able to work with so many pet parents, and I get to witness these really beautiful moments where we see transformation. And, one comes to mind in particular. Recently, I was working with a woman and her dog. And, she was struggling with her confidence and loyalty to self, in so many different arenas of her life. And her dog was reflecting back, that same pattern. And when it finally clicked to her that she could actually be a leader, it brought tears to her eyes because she didn't even consider that possibility for herself. No one in her life, no circumstances in her life had really kind of propped her up to say, hey, what do you think? Can you lead us out of this? Can you show us, how we should behave? And like that shift in of itself was just so amazing and such a good testament to understanding how even everyday interactions with our pets help really transform who we are at our core.
I love that because it's not something we normally think about, and as I'm thinking about my relationship with Neo and what he's teaching me or what he's showing me and what I'm learning about myself is, it's there are some things that we don't normally share with the outside world, right? We keep it all hidden. I mean, I have a public persona, right? And then my personal persona is whatever, right? And so when but Neo, he just is always just being himself. He doesn't have two different personas.
Yeah.
He just has the one. He's like this all the time. The only time he's different is that when he's outside, he doesn't bark like crazy when we're going for a walk and stuff like that. But other than that, he's confident. He has his own space. And he wants sometimes, would like to communicate with other dogs and things like that. But it's like sometimes really big. It's like, yeah, let's stay in our own lane over here, buddy. Right. But he doesn't change his way of behavior really depending on who's around. So he's always him, and so that teaches me sometimes as well. It's like, just be yourself. Who cares? Right? Be
Yeah.
confident in yourself. Right? Be
That's
loyal
such a
to
good
you.
point. Yes, because when you're confident, then you're comfortable filling up space, right? You can fill up energetic space. And one thing that's really important for sensitive people like us on this call to understand is when we say filling up your energetic space, that doesn't mean you're imposing or taking from others. It's not a zero sum game. We're just filling out our container. We're filling out and blowing up like a tire, whereas we weren't filling ourselves with any space or air. Now we're kind of filling out. And this comfort in filling out our energetic space really brings us into that notion of conviction, right? Because all of this ties into convictions. If you tuned in and you're listening to the beginning of this conversation about being confident with yourself, being loyal to yourself, deprioritizing others if that's what it takes, but making sure that you're accepting only the pure and nutritious in your life. If you're listening to all that and you're like, well, that sounds awfully selfish, then we need to look at convictions, right? Because what convictions are we holding that is a selfish thing, right? And the reason why convictions are going to be so important is because convictions are going to be that set of beliefs that we all hold to be true. It's not something that we picked up on a whim or something that we can quickly be dissuaded of. A conviction is something that's at our core, and it kind of dictates and mandates how we behave, how we interact with the world, how we see the world around us. And so it's important for each of us to also understand how we come across our convictions. This helps us better understand ourselves and how we read energy. And there's some of us who just, we have conviction, right? We know what we know. We believe what we believe. No one has to tell us. We can't explain how. We just know it. We hold it, to our core. And those are the people, by the way, who usually in numerology have a 15 in their name, a 1-5. I call it like the Aries kind of stubborn bulldog number. And then, especially working with my branding and marketing clients, like I've learned this is a really great kind of thing to understand as you're moving forward in life, because if you are someone who just knows things, that's great. But there's such a big group of people who actually need a foil, who need to say like, oh, well, do you believe this? Then they can react to that energy and say, actually, no, I disagree strongly because of X, Y, and Z. Those are the people who usually have a 51 in their name, right? It's kind of, they have to feel, sample it, and then they can kind of react to it. So they have to think about it first and have a point of view that they can use as a center point and react. And then they find their conviction. And then actually just a couple hours ago, I uncovered a third kind of conviction barometer, which is the people who have to actually try something out and walk the walk before they know if it's for them. And those are going to be the people who have the 2 and 5 in their name usually. So that's so interesting that numerology also helps us understand how we uncover our convictions in life. And convictions, like, as we engage in the conversation, I think it's really important to know that convictions don't mean we can't reevaluate and compromise when appropriate, right? If a dog has a conviction that they need to protect the home and they're going to bark in the home and kind of do their thing, that doesn't mean that we can't collaborate with them, work with them, and show them that there's a different way. And through that process of give and take and trust and consistency and routine and proof is in the pudding, their conviction can change, right? But still, it was something that was shaping their world. And the reason why it's so important to, be confident, loyal to self, but also have conviction is because we're at a really interesting time in life right now. Conviction is going to be important, right? And the reason why it's important that as we become more confident in embodying our conviction, we're really vibrating at different frequencies. And this is going to be important in various levels. On a, micro personal level, convictions help us feel more stable and secure, right? We can rely on our worldview and some things we hold true. That's stability. In our relationships, convictions help us hold healthy boundaries. That's with other humans, that's with other pets, that's in our community. But even more importantly, collectively at this point in time, convictions are really important. Why? Because humans have free will, and free will has always been about choice, right? Free will doesn't exist if you don't have different alternatives and options. That's the definition of free will, being able to choose A, B, C, D, or E. And so as we all here become more confident in taking up space, embodying our convictions, our energetic frequency creates a counterbalance in the energy. And that essentially means that whatever conviction I hold in the community and nature and the universe, there's a counterbalance, there's a foil. And so, that's going to be important. And it's important that when we speak in terms of our convictions, we're not looking at it in terms of right and wrong. Oh, I need to hold my conviction because it's the right one. It's the good one. It's simply a counterbalance. It's a juxtaposition. It's a point out there. And a lot of us in this community, no matter what we believe, what our convictions, we tend to be smaller in our energy because we tend to be so hyper self-aware that we don't want to impose on anyone. We don't want to try to, show, impose our way of thinking, our way of life, our belief system. So we tend to shrink, but there still is really strong energy out there. So as we grow, we are creating a stage where all voices get heard, right? Think about if we were in a debate and one side of the debate has a microphone and the other is a muffled whisper. You can't even give fair attention or consideration to what you cannot hear. So all of us stepping into our embodiment, stepping into our conviction, we're putting out other options into the world for consideration, which is so important. And so, just like our pets, we want to be confident in our convictions, but also how we interact with the world. And I think your point was really important of the ultimate way to look at the benefit, right? When our pets go out and they're chasing a squirrel, for example, they don't care who's watching. They're not attacked. It doesn't even really matter if they catch the squirrel or not. They're not calculating the risk, that am I going to look silly, all that stuff. They just see it and they go, right? Because it's like that natural and instinctive to them. That's something we can learn from our animal companions. If we can just trust ourselves and go, not even worrying about the outcome, are we going to attain things? Just that repeated process of trusting our intuition, being confident in our convictions and acting on them without question, that is tremendous. That shifts energy, helps us take up space. And it's really what our animal companions have been teaching us from day one, whether it's pushing us out of our bed or through their everyday behaviors like separation anxiety, managing unwanted behaviors, barking, all of that. So that's kind of an overview of some of the reasoning behind today's topic.
I love that because it's like we second guess everything, right? Our pets, they do not second guess anything. They just go and they just do and whatever. But we second guess everything and we hold ourselves back for fear of judgment, for fear of rejection. What will people think? Blah blah blah. All those wonderful stories that we tell ourselves, which really are irrelevant because it doesn't really matter what people think or say or do. It really comes down to us and what we believe in strongly, what convictions we have, and then going forth and creating and just doing, right? And just being ourselves. And that is, as you were speaking, I was like, oh yeah, I really should just be more like Neo.
Isn't that
I should be
fun?
more like Neo, you know?
Yeah.
And I think more and more of us should, so that we can shine our light more brightly, because our light has been dimmed for whatever reason, doesn't matter, but so we can shine our light more brightly, um communicate, create, and just yeah, it's like I'm gonna look at Neo and really watch what he does and like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna be like Neo, because that is a great example for all of us of no fear, right?
No
I mean,
fear and no static, right? Because you made a really good point about communication. One of the reasons confidence is so important, and was like the one thing I zoned in through all those biopics, was because when you're confident, there isn't that energetic chatter that people pick up on. If I say, the sky is blue, there's no like, but is it? It's kind of turquoise. Sometimes it's gray. Sometimes it's all that going on in our heads because we are so self-aware about, dealing in absolutes. Even if we're not saying it, people are picking up on that energy, that there's something I'm holding back. So I might be telling you something, but there's something I'm holding back, even if they can't put their finger on it. There's a reason why con men, it gets a bad name, but con men is confidence man, right? It's because they would come, they'd say something with confidence and you'd believe it, right? In advertising, we had this whole kind of rule of thumb, which is speak with authority. If the client asked you, if my brand was a dog, what kind of a dog, this is what it would be for this reason. Even if you had no idea, you were trained in advertising to speak with authority. So much so that my sister would start calling me out. It was like translating into different areas of my life. She'd be like, oh, wow, I wonder how many miles, we are from. So I'd be like 45 miles and I'll tell you why. She's like, oh no, stop that. But this notion of speaking with authority, with conviction, without having the static of the chatter, that's what our animal companions do. They don't have the chatter. They're just very clear. And because they're so clear and concise, they're magnetic, they're charismatic, they're charming. Even when they're being sassy, you just can't help but love them because there's that authenticity. We trust, we kind of gravitate towards that. So that's absolutely a key aspect to not only clear communication, communicating our boundaries clearly and lovingly and concisely, but it's also a way to communicate with our animal kingdom, with our pets, with others. It's such an important part of communication, for sure.
And I love that story, and I'm laughing because I tend to do the same, same thing. So, sometimes like Robert would ask me something, and I would like say exactly and with full, authority, confidence, conviction, even though I have no idea. But it comes out that way. And then I do the same with my daughter because she asked me a question. It's like, yeah, it's this, blah blah blah, and she never questions. And then, but I then go back and question, is it really?
It's
I'm
so
not,
funny. And of
sorry,
course, we'd never
I gotta
do
double
it.
check.
Yeah, and
But
of
I
course
think
we never do it on something that, is important, but it's just funny getting into that habit. We've all kind of stepped into that shoe and almost like scare ourselves a little bit. We're like, whoa, that was really direct. But the more we do it intentionally and with things that matter, the more we're broadcasting and creating this energy and frequency that others can react to, align with, tap into, and it creates that free will, for humanity. So it's really interesting how it helps us, personally in relationships, but also, we need to do it as humans. We owe it to ourselves to be really honest with what we believe, who we are, and to take up space doing it,
Mhm.
to hold that space. We hear a lot in our community about holding space for others, but we tend to not do it for ourselves. So it's
Yeah,
a great way to remember that.
and part of holding space for ourselves is remembering that we are worthy and of value as we are, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big piece too, of remembering how worthy you are. And I mean, like we we never question the worth of our pets. Like, is Neil worthy of getting food and a treat and a hug and a this? We never look at it at all. It's never a question. Of course he is. He deserves all the best. Whatever he wants, he can have. Kind of thing. But we don't really do that for ourselves as much. We judge and all that wonderful stuff. But oh gosh, all these things, it's like they are so pure and so innocent, but so like full of life. Which I think is like, yeah, if we can just be more like that, then our lives would be so much better.
Yeah. And so it's, watch what you wish for, because the number one ways our pets get us to step into these wonderful attributes is by challenging us through their behavior. Our everyday interactions with them helps us get one step closer to being that energy, the aspiration, that aspirational aspect of ourselves that we want to be. They see our full potential. They're helping us
Mm.
step into it. So, when you're having issues with your cat, having accidents around the house, or your dog barking at all hours, know that they're helping you find your confidence, your commitment to self, and your conviction, so that you can feel confident taking up that space in the world and broadcasting it to others.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. This is such a wonderful conversation. Oh my goodness. It's really resonating with me. We have some questions from people because of course whenever you come on, people come on with their questions about their dogs and cats and horses and whatever else is going on. So let's take a few questions just so that we can assist them. So Linda, you had a question about your somewhere. I saw it somewhere.
My daughter's chickens. She lost 9 of them last night. I don't know whether it was a fox. I don't know if it was a coyote. I have no idea what it was. I don't know if Denise can manage that or not. And then her dog, my granddaughter had won this chicken, this rubber chicken, and the dog accidentally got the head off, and I don't know if he's okay or not.
Wow,
And his name is Chief.
Isn't that so interesting? The chicken theme. Okay. So let me
Yeah.
just take a note here. Let me just look into the numerology. Okay. So let's start with chickens, right? Because I mean, we're having so much really interesting analogies or symbolism of chickens losing their head, losing their life, getting taken away. And not only, 1 or 2, 9 chickens that your daughter lost, that in numerology 9 is completion, stepping into purpose work. And chickens, it's interesting. Roosters are all about knowing your path and knowing how to, being the innovator, being the first down the line. Whereas chickens are known to be more communal, and more about the following, right? Especially when things get dark, they go into their coop one by one. It's almost like instinctual because they know they have to stay safe. And so the message that I'm getting from the 9 chickens is it's less about what caused it and more about the action of the chickens disappearing, the chickens no longer being part of, the pack and stepping into the rooster energy. And so there's something really beautiful about that with the parallel of what's going on in, the collective. There's a lot of, things going on that might not be ideal for, some of us, or we might not agree with the convictions of, those that are acting in our communities. But the action of that means we can no longer be chickens, right? We can't just be roaming around and, doing our same routine. We got to step up into that leadership role inspired by the rooster. So to me, that's truly the message about the chicken. And it's about not worrying, was it a fox? We don't have to dissect it. It's really the outcome of now what do we fill that space with? The chickens are no longer in the space. We fill it with the energy of rooster. So actually it's a beautiful invitation, not only for your daughter, but for all of us, and just so on theme. I can't believe it. And Chief, I'm not getting any, Chief kind of reminds me of, what was that? The Fozzie bear from the Waka 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 bear. It seems like there's some sort of joke going on with Chief. A joke.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, it's almost like, and even in the name Chief, like, Chief, you would expect a very stoic, very strong, devout dog. And he seems kind of silly and playful and funny. So there's something about like a karmic or cosmic joke about Chief, and he just seems pretty funny about it. So it'd be about levity, not taking things at face value, really playing in the energy and laughing at situations and kind of rolling with those punches. I'm not a medical intuitive. I always say that. So always, check your vet, trust with your instincts, but I'm not getting anything other than let's not take things so seriously. It's just about let's just kind of roll with those punches.
Perfect. Thanks, honey.
Thank
You're
you.
such a doll.
Oh,
I'm so grateful.
it's always so fun to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
I appreciate you. Thank you both, honey.
Thank you. All right, so there's just as a follow-up to the 9 chickens, Jill just posted about 9 ducks. So her cousin just lost 9 ducks on Friday night from a fox. And she says, I assume it means we can't be like sitting ducks in our community.
Jill, right on. Look at that. That's so perfect. Perfect takeaway. I mean, it's all about just making sure that we're, standing in our own. I think it's interesting because many of y'all don't know this, but this conversation was actually supposed to take place, I think, mid-February. And we had to postpone it for a few different reasons. So I think the timing of this conversation, the theme of, confidence, taking up space, conviction, again, not from a place of judgment, but just from a place of owning our sovereignty. I think the timing of it is perfect. And so these 9 ducks, 9 chickens, what a wonderful way to show us that those, animals more in the wild, less traditional animal companions still can bring us powerful messages.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And 9, you said means completion, right?
It means completion. It means stepping into your purpose work. It's, light, shedding light into the world. So it's very beautiful. And ducks, of course, they're also known for letting water just roll right off their back. So similar to Chief, it's like we can't take everything so seriously. We got to just do our thing, roll with the punches, stand with it, have confidence, conviction, and affect what we can, even if it's just broadcasting that into the world as a counterbalance and a counterpoint for the collective's free will.
Absolutely. Awesome. So Lori has put in the chat, I would love to know why my one rescue is so full of fear. So Lori, we're going to need to know the name, I think, right? Yeah, we need to know the name of the rescue.
It would
before
be
we can answer.
for sure. Yeah, because I always like to pull numerology. But one thing that I can say with our animal companions that are rescues is they usually have a lot of trauma or drawing attention to our first chakra, right? And the first chakra is all about feeling grounded, feeling safe in our world, safe in our environment. It has to do with early connections in our lives, maternal or, kind of family figure connections. It also has to do with just feeling generally connected in ourselves and comfortable taking up space, right? The first chakra is all about the I am, the id, the ego. So if we can't feel comfortable being ourselves, it's hard for us to kind of tap into those other energies along the chakra system, like worthiness, intimacy, trust, vulnerability, all the way to self-actualization. So our animal companions usually do bring us back into that first chakra. And in my kind of system, the translating beyond behavior, I do associate fear with the first chakra. And anytime we're looking at our pet's first chakra, we also want to look at our own first chakra. So I would even say, Lori, where you either need work on or are really good at providing that sense of security, safety for yourself. Do you feel confident in your job? Do you feel confident in your relationships? Do you feel confident in your childhood, how you were brought up? And if you have any abandonment issues, any kind of, similar themes, that's your rescue helping you kind of open up to, all right, let's heal this together. Let's work through it. We get to have a redo where we work together through these bigger themes. The other big thing about rescues, by the way, and so many of us are, we're such big hearts here, is when we're working with rescues, the other thing we want to take in consideration is we're so passionate about rescuing others. Where are we also hoping that we could have been rescued? Maybe in childhood, we wish we had gotten, someone had realized that maybe we needed a little bit more in terms of emotional support. Maybe we could have been rescued out of a situation that wasn't ideal, very extreme, or something a little, less obvious. But when we're dealing with rescues, a lot of times we want to look at that dynamic of rescuing ourselves as well.
Some wow, really, really resonates. So Josie is 12. Josie is 12. Neo was a rescue. I guess is same thing, right? So, and I always look at him as he rescued me. He came in to rescue me as well. So, because it was a difficult time, but
Yeah.
not to
And
not to, not
Josie,
to put so much pressure on him, but
Yeah, no, Josie's interesting too. The numerology of her name, she's got the healer number with the 95, so big healer energy. And she has the 6, which is all about family dynamics, in between 161. So I would say, when we're talking about safety and security, in particular for you, Lori, feel into where did you not feel safe in your family home growing up? And that's kind of going to be the key to working together and finding that common ground. And then also oftentimes with that 6 is the opportunity to play the role of the parent. If as a child we didn't receive something, we are now in the parental role caring for our pets. We can kind of reparent them in the way that we would have liked to have been parented or supported or felt stable and secure as a child. So there's a lot of this do-over energy to help just move past and create more stability, security, safety, and do some inner child healing.
Awesome. Thank you. Powerful. So let us know how that resonates with you, Lori. And we just had yesterday a inner child and mother wound call, healing call, a call with Jennifer. So this, ties in quite closely to that. And then there's a question from Annette. 1 second. Hold on. Annette, we don't have the name of the cat, but she says, my cat is severely matted. He is very big, and I know he would slash me to death if I tried to shave or cut his fur. Is there a way I can convince him I won't hurt him? I knew he would be more comfortable without the mats. I know he would be more comfortable without the mats. Yeah,
So,
let us know what the cat's name is, Annette.
Yeah, and so Annette, there's something really beautiful and powerful about the numerology in your name too, by the way, which ties into what we'll be talking about with the cat. You have the 55 and the 22 energy in your name. 55 is amplified throat communication and empathy.
Sorry, Zeus is Norwegian forest cat. So Zeus is the name of the cat. Sorry.
I love that. That's actually so perfect too. So you've got the kind of empathic throat, kind of amplified energy communication. And then within your first and your last name, you have that double T, which is 22/4, which is a master vibration of new foundations in love. And creating, boundaries and safety and security, and especially in our experiences here on Earth, in your case. Zeus being the cat, I love that name. It's such a powerful mythological name, which ties beautifully into the energy that was coming through Annette behind the mats. And if we go back to different cultural and biblical stories, mermaids, their powers in their hair. I think it was Samson and Delilah, right? His hair was cut, the power was in his hair. So the energy that was coming through with Zeus and being matted and wanting to cut his hair is his power is in the perception, the false perception that his power is in his fur, in his hair. And so what I would say to you, and that is the same way that we talked about with the rescue, okay, what's going on in my animal companion? How can I kind of bring that back in as a reflection into my life? The question would be, what's your relationship with your hair? Were you very into your hair? Did you have haircuts? And if not your hair, what did you perceive to be your power holder? And did it get taken away? Whether it's like, a lot of kids, they have their security blanket, they have, different toys that are important to them that at some point people say, that's enough, you're too old for that. That's the energy coming through. So something that you had as, metaphorical security blanket that you thought was your source of power that got taken away from you. Go back to that, work through that. That's going to help Zeus be more open and understanding. The power is in unlocking that false conception of something that you thought held your power and was taken away. That was never the source. It was always within you.
Awesome. Let us know how that resonates with you, Annette. So we have a question from Terry. Terry, I don't know if you put the name of your pet in the chat, your cat. So Terry said, I would like to know why my cat starts screeching at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. when I'm asleep. When I'm on Zoom, she will start screeching. What's going on with her?
Ruby is her name. R-U-B-Y.
Ruby. Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
R-U-B-Y. Let's see. Okay. So the interesting energy around Ruby is that when things get quiet, okay. Ruby has oracle energy to her. So Ruby has had a lot of different quote unquote lifetimes or parallel lives, parallel realities where she accompanied oracles. She was like the temple cat, the oracle's cat. By the way, Terry, you have really beautiful 99 energy within your name as well. And you also have, even though you don't have 6s in your name, you have this like oracle energy to you as well. And so what happens to Ruby is every so often when things are really quiet, she slips into, there's like bleed through between realities, and she sees things that either happened or are going to happen. And she kind of starts alerting and freaking out. It's almost like night terrors, but she's tapping into like past lives, which is really interesting. So what can we do for you, sweet Ruby? Clearing the room is going to be one of the most important things that you can do for her, especially in terms of clearing the energy of the room before you go to bed and then setting up an energetic parameter. This is actually really interesting because in the collective, there's a lot of, fear, history repeating itself, cycles, this, that, the other that she's picking up on. We need to create a safe environment, almost like these Zoom boxes for Ruby, so that she stays in the energy of that moment, that time, that presence, that energy, that reality, because there's too much bleed through and she's reacting to it all, especially when things get really quiet. She really picks up on that.
Awesome. So let us know, Terry, how that resonates with you for Ruby. Goodness, the chat is like all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know if it's possible, but If we can also do people on video rather than just the chat, if people want to raise their hands, are we able to like unmute them as well and do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yep.
there's always energy in the voice too, which is cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I know Asha had a question in the chat. So Asha, you want to unmute?
Hi,
Hello?
Shefali. Hi, Denise.
Hi.
Hi, Asha.
Hello. I just have a quick question. Denise, my dog, I have a dog who is just turned 11. His name is Jax, and I just wanted you to see if anything comes up for him or if anything I should be aware of.
So something specific, Asha.
Sure. So he's getting older, so he sleeps a lot. So is there anything I can do to make him, I guess, more happy, or I can do to help him with the longevity of his health or life?
Mhm. I love that. So Asha, his name is Jax, Jax. Is that correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So there's something really interesting about the numerology of your name and Jax's name, right? So your name, Asha, your first name, vibrates at, if my math is correct, 1, 2, 8, 9, 10, at 11 over 2. That's the master vibration, which is incredibly intuitive. It's about receiving information, being very psychically connected, being able to kind of tap into the other world. 11, I always picture, 2 columns and light just in information coming in. The thing that's interesting about that is your name also, the first 2 letters are an 11, 1, 1, and Jax also is 1, 1. Your numbers are 1, 1, 8. Jax's are 1, 1, 6. So both of you have this really beautiful psychic connection that you share. You're able to communicate a lot, like in the room without talking, intentionally. It's almost like non-verbal, non-intentional communication is always going on and carries a lot of weight. And for Jax, what he wants you to know is his overall name vibrates at an 8. That's the as above, so below, it's infinity. So he's always going to be with you. And for Jax, that number 6 signifies that home is his world and you're his home. So he wants you to know that, despite this embodiment, he's been with you with a lot of past lives and many different iterations. He will continue to be with you, and your communication is always going to feel ethereal, kind of match made in heaven in the stars, because it is. So there's not much you need to do other than just be, allow it to communicate. He's not uncomfortable. He's not unwell. He's just enjoying being at home. Also, he's saying, don't feel like pressure to let me take him to the park. Let me get him outside. He really just if he's near you, he's good. So that's all he wants. More of just being with you, connecting with you. And that happens automatically. And it will happen even when he transitions on the other side. You'll still remain connected psychically with that 11 energy.
That was so beautiful. It really was. And I feel like that a lot with him. Like I just know what he needs, or I would just, even before like he would nudge me for something, like I just know what to do for him. Or if he's like getting a panic attack, I can easily comfort him within minutes. So that's lovely that you say that. Yeah, and he's always around me.
I love that. And so the other thing that also opens up, if it hasn't yet, is you have a huge propensity for interspecies communication. So animal communication would be a really big strength of yours if you haven't tapped into that yet, beyond, Jax, even other animals. Also, it's showing like kind of trees, nature, like you're very connected, and you probably hear more than you give yourself credit for. You probably think you're imagining things, but you are just such a communicator.
So you read my mind. Sometimes I feel like we have a cat across the street, the neighbor's cat, and she always comes and visits us when I'm outside, and I pet her, and it's just amazing. Like I know what she needs, and I feed her and whatnot, and the neighbor's okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's true. I take well to all animals, actually, besides the really vicious ones, right? So like the
I love it. And
alligators
that's
and
part of your heritage with Freya. I don't know much about Freya. I think it's some Nordic goddess.
Nordic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So definitely look that up, Asha. Look up Freya, Freya.
okay. She's the goddess that speaks to animals or connected with
I
animals.
don't know. It
Animals and
feels like
nature.
it's connected to nature, animals, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Almost
Okay.
like Diana the Huntress, but more like with Dionysus mixed in, like some bacchanalian energy, like a bit more chill, not so much of the hunter energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Look her up.
Makes
You'll
sense.
you'll get information.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, Asha. Thank
Mhm.
you. All right, we're gonna go to Katie. Katie, you want to unmute?
Thank you. I'd like to ask about my puppy. His name is Mochi, and I'm curious about his separation anxiety and if he has any messages or how I can help him.
I love that. Okay, so let me just pull some of the numerology here. I love that. All right, so at the center of your name, Katie, is 2. 2 is that number of balance, of, balancing your needs, other people's needs. And so a lot of what Mochi was kind of like cheering in the background when we were talking about boundaries and confidence and like choosing ourselves, even if it means deprioritizing others. So that's really one of the big projects, quote unquote, that Mochi's working with you on through the separation anxiety, is helping you understand that sometimes it's okay to prioritize yourself, or to, have to make, decisions that are tough, that not everybody's going to love and enjoy and be aligned with, because it's for the good of the pack. And so this is something he's saying that is a habit that you've developed since childhood. The whole like, no, I'll be the last to eat. I'll be the last to sit down. I'll be the last to, everybody eat first, eat first, eat first. If there's any leftovers, I'll take it. And so it's going to be a little bit of that energy that he's working with you on. Is like, no, take care of you, step up for you, make those unpopular decisions, if it benefits you. Not that it has to be every day, but little by little, that's what he's trying to help you kind of prop up in your energy field, that sense of, worthiness and balance and deservability that we all struggle with as empaths and sensitive people. Mochi's also saying he can handle it. He's going to put up a fight. He's going to protest. He's going to let you know, but it's more because it's part of the test, right? He's actually he sounds more dramatic in his reactions than he actually feels, because it's part of saying like, really, but maybe if I scream a little louder, maybe if I bark a little louder, you'll break. No, good woman, not for you to break. Good job. So there's a little bit of that training going on with Mochi and you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, that really helps.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Good. Thank you, Katie.
And I will say separation anxiety, as much as I believe in our energetic connection with our animal companions, it's so equally important that we do traditional training as well, right? The same way traditional training alone won't solve the problem if we're ignoring the energetic root at the core. If we're only addressing the energetic root without doing the traditional training, it's going to be very hard to see change. So we really need to, in this, world that we live, we're still, that 3D world striving towards that 5D new age reality. We need both. We need to bring that together. So it's patience, it's consistency, and it's doing all of the training without the guilt, right? Without the like, even if we're not saying it, a lot of us, when we close that crate door, or we close the door and we're leaving it alone, we're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. Click, we have to make sure we're doing it with a clear, confident mind. You're going to be okay, little one. Here we go. I have the conviction that this is the best thing for everyone. Here we go. Click, out, back.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my poor Neo has separation anxiety for sure. And he's never alone. So it's hard when we do have to somehow leave him for a little while. It's harder on us, I think, than on him, but it's what it is. Mary France, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, I was going to talk also about anxious separation for anxiety. My dog's name is Gus. And the thing that really bothers me is when he comes to me and I feel so invasive, as if he wants to get into myself, like physically, and he's
Yeah.
80 pounds.
Yes.
He's a big boy. And I'm his fourth family in 4 years. I know there's a history behind. I don't know if there's any trauma. I think there are just circumstances with the pandemic. But yeah, it disturbs me.
Yeah.
And sometimes with his male energy, he even seems like he wants to, he kind of, I don't know, in my English is not good, but as if he's like a sexual energy bouncing, towards me. Like, I want to get in. I want to get in.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm disturbed.
That can be intimidating, right? And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that, because I know it's not, the common story that you hear, but I work with a lot of pet parents who have that dynamic.
Yeah, okay.
You're not alone. We just don't hear about it a lot. So thank you for sharing. So the thing that's really interesting about Gus is all about connection. And he hasn't ever learned how to make connection. And so separation anxiety is all about the second chakra, the womb, the uterus, birthing babies. So when he's pushing, he literally wants to push into, he wants to be your baby. He wants to be your baby. And he wants to force that, he wants to create the energetic tether, like a, how'd you call it? What's that cord that babies have?
Umbilical cord.
Oh,
He
yeah.
wants to create that umbilical cord because he feels literally like a balloon that's floating. He wants a cord that he can feel safe, that you'd hold on to. So what I would recommend with Gus is in those moments when he's feeling that energy coming through, first of all, he wants to be called a baby, my baby, my sweet, my little Gus. You are of me, for me. You are constantly going to be part of my energy. I love you so much. You are safe. You are welcome. And in those moments, we don't quite have an umbilical cord, but one thing we do have with our animal companions is a leash. Put him on leash. Put the leash around your waist. So you can put like a belt on and put the end of the leash around your waist, or get a jogging leash. And even if you're just walking around the house with him on leash, it's going to make him feel secure and safe. I would say with traditional training, there's a lot of games and, leadership games that I do with dogs on leash, sit, look, touch, sit, look, where they're attached to me. I'm hands-free, but we're, practicing commands together. That's going to give the traditional training, the benevolent leadership. And in his case in particular, that sense of feeling, attached to you like an umbilical cord, because he feels like he's not grounded. He doesn't have that cord, that attachment to anyone. He's gone around too much.
That's great. And do I look for reflection of my own?
It's always good to, right?
Yeah.
Always something interesting about, going back to, your relationship with your mom. Did you feel, like her baby, or were you kind of taking care of her? Were you a parentified child? So there's a lot that can go into that, or maybe people lose their moms at an early age, so they feel like they never knew their mom. There's so many different ways to look at this dynamic. It's interesting because maternal relationships are so multifaceted, right? The mom that we knew as a kid might change drastically when we become mothers ourselves, whether to a human child or another, a dog even. And then it even changes when then we have to take care of them as they get older. And we see, even if they're not sick, like, things like, Mom, how are you falling for that email? That's clearly not a real email, right? All of a sudden we're the parents. So there's so many facets and chapters to our relationships with moms in particular. It's always a good relationship to look into.
Okay, thanks.
Beautiful question. And thank you for being there for Gus.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mary France. Okay, we're going to take a few more quick questions, and then we are going to talk about some other stuff really quick. So, Stella, you want to unmute, and I will find that time for you while you are speaking.
I don't have a question for her. I just need to know what time is the
Okay.
program that I bought.
Okay, I'll send you an email. Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Yeah, not to worry. Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to go to Cindy.
Hi, Denise. Hi, Shefali.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I just want you to know that ever since I've been on the phone and the call, my dog Cisco has been like drawn to your voice. And he's been like really close to the phone, like he's just listening and understanding everything that we're talking about here. So my question is, I've had Cisco for 6.5 years now, and he was a rescue. He's not very food oriented. He doesn't like to eat a lot. He's very thin. He almost looks malnourished. It's kind of like he only eats just the bare minimums. Is there something that he wants me to know that he enjoys eating that he would like to see more of?
Mhm. Oh, that's
Maybe
a
where
great
he was
question.
before, he had a different diet. I'm not sure.
So, Cisco's energy vibrates at a 22/4. And just to make sure, it's CISCO, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So it's 22/4, which is the master vibration of kind of new foundations in love. But when I see pets with the vibration of 22/4, my, oh my, are they sensitive? They're sensitive to many things. One, routine. I feel like, if things aren't exactly the same, you don't have like 51 pieces of kibble in the bowl, like it's off, 49 is no good, ask me 51. They're also very sensitive to what's going on in the world. So if there's like an earthquake half the globe away, he'll pick up on it. He knows. He's incredibly sensitive. So for him, food is a big strain on his system because he's so sensitive to the energy. The other thing that Cisco is kind of showing is that he's not very comfortable in his body. He's a very sensitive little dog, so he's not very comfortable in his body. He's almost more of like, if you hear about like humans being star seeds, he feels very like star seed like. So he's like, what is this body? Why do I have to eat? And if people across the world aren't eating, why am I eating every day? Like, this makes no sense. So there's this really interesting aspect to him where if, there's injustice anywhere, he feels he needs to operate at the common lowest denominator, which is really interesting. He's always going to adjust his behavior, his schedule, his energy to the underdog, right? I don't want to have more. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not acknowledging their plight. So I would even go back to, for you, Cindy, how, your sensitive nature to other people's suffering, how you take it on, how you process it, and see if there's a parallel there. Because for both of you, there's this opportunity to really flip the paradigm. If you're doing something good for yourself, then you're creating that good energy and creating possibilities for others as well, versus saying, if I'm doing something for myself that someone doesn't have access to, that's not fair. It's this really interesting flip in dynamic. And that goes back to the confidence, the conviction that we talked about in the beginning. I know it's a nuance, but it's like a worldview to shift. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of convoluted. I can clarify if it doesn't.
If you could clarify just a little bit on that.
Okay, so what Cisco's kind of asking you to reevaluate is, if you saw someone in your community hungry, would you feel guilty eating a full meal because they didn't have it, right?
Very much so, yes.
Okay, so what we want to do is, if we see someone hungry in our community, we actually want to nourish ourselves very well to hold that energy and possibility so that person can rise up to that same reality and possibility. Because if we see someone who's hungry and we say, well, I feel guilty eating, so I'm not going to, now we're both at a lower frequency and vibration. So sometimes when we see injustice, the best thing we can do is do something really beautiful and uplifting to help uplift the collective energy.
Okay, that makes sense. And is there any particular food that he feels he needs more of that he's not getting?
So I'm not a medical intuitive, but what I'm kind of getting the sense of is physically softer the better. It's feeling like his teeth are a little sensitive. So something really porridgey like is what he's craving, something really soft.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. My gosh, I love the information that you just shared and so insightful. Thank you so much. And by the way, we've really enjoyed your book. That has just been like a blessing to have in the household, and it has
Oh,
really made a difference in our lives.
Cindy, thank you. That's awesome. Okay, now I'm putting two and two together. Now I know exactly who you are. Which Cindy?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cindy.
Okay, thank you. Many blessings.
You too.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
Cindy, by the way, are you in Scottsdale or where are you in Arizona?
I'm in Vail, Arizona. It's
Is
just
it
south
anywhere
of
near that?
Tucson,
Okay,
by
got it.
Tucson.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Because I might be coming to Arizona sometime this year, so I was just checking who is near Scottsdale.
We can make that happen, though. Yes, it's only a less than 2-hour drive from here. So yes, I would
Okay,
love to see you.
perfect. I will definitely let you know. Yeah, thank you. I would
Thank
love to
you.
see you too. Thanks. Okay, we're gonna go to Ina. Ina, you want to unmute?
Yes, thank you, Polly. I'm wondering about my cat, Jack. He's one of brother and sister Norwegian forest cats. They were left in a cardboard box in a parking lot. Now that he's about 25 pounds and big, he cries and moans and fights his sleep. The neighborhood cat, Tommy, totally scares him. He just runs home like a jackrabbit. So I'm wondering just how to help him.
Beautiful. And Ina, you said his name is Jack or Jax?
Jack.
With a CK.
Jack.
DK.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Bless his heart. So it was just a little hard to understand, but from what I can recap, Jack and his sister were found in a box and you opened your heart and your home to him. And so he's gained a lot of weight. You've helped him kind of be the best cat he can be, but he's still crying a little bit, especially when Tommy kind of chases him around and gets scared.
He cries in his sleep. He
bless his heart.
Cries, he moans, he has night.
So here's the really, really interesting thing. Talk about changing our worldview and shifting things on their head. So what Jack is saying is he's not crying and moaning, he's chanting and working. So he does a lot of sound healing in his sleep. So as he's, crying, vocalizing, chanting, moaning, that's shifting the energy. That's shifting the energy around, the home, the community, different situations. Like he's got a lot of work going on. He also has so much, his name starts with an 11, ends with an 11. So that's that really like intuitive mediumship, like kind of connected in the energy with 3 in the middle. 3 is the creative expressive. 3 is the catalyst for change. 3 is the butterfly, cocoon into the butterfly. His power symbol is triangle, upside down and right side up. So both the male and the female version of it. He can kind of flip those. So he's doing a lot of work with that. What's interesting about that too, Ina, is he wants to remind you that you also are a healer. Your name starts with that 95, that big healer number. So the same way that he effortlessly does his singing, chanting, spiritual work, you do a lot of healing just by kind of being and in your sleep as well. So you both are very prolific in the unconscious, not conscious hours.
that would explain why he's so drawn to me when I play the Tibetan metal prayer bowls and
Wow.
trombone, and he just wants to be there with it. So
I love that. Well,
I
it's
love
no
that. Yeah.
accident that he found you. And, as much as, being found in a cardboard box, it's kind of like the closest he could do to being inside a sound bowl. Like the imagery of that is kind of interesting. So you guys just found each other. It's perfect.
thank you, thank you.
I love that, Ina. So thank you so much. And now he's not crying and moaning, because that would break my heart too, but he's actually chanting and doing sound healing. So it's totally different story and perspective on things, right?
Thank you, Shefali.
Yeah. Thank you, Ina. Beautiful. Okay, one last quick question, only because I feel for you, Devrani. And she says, what can I do to get our family dog Julius to forgive me for leaving him in South Africa when I brought my children back to the UK? So I'm going to let Denise answer that. But, I had to leave Timmy back in Austria. I couldn't bring him with me, and it tore me apart. It broke my heart. I was such a wreck. So I totally get it. But he is, oh my God, my Timmy is like, he's so happy. He's doing so well. He's healthy. The lady who looks after him, takes care of him, is like so nice. Oh my God. So, I mean, he's doing way better there than he would have if he would have come here with me. So, that's just my story about that. So I know that there's no forgiveness involved between me and Timmy, because he's doing so wonderfully, and I'm so grateful that that the home that we did find for him ended up being so much better than what he would have experienced here. So he's got lots of love and everything. So, all right, Denise.
Love it. Okay. So there's something really interesting. And this is Devrani's dog. Is that right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And the dog's name is Julius in South Africa.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
So here's what's really interesting about Julius. Julius has the master vibration of 33/6 within his name. 33/6 is the cosmic parent, very tied to planetary alignments, the cosmos, the galaxy. And then he has 93 within his name, which shows that his purpose work, 9, is around that 3, that 33 energy. So what Julius was kind of explaining is sometimes we have animal companions who their soul mission and their energy and what they're supposed to influence in this world is tied to different ley lines and locations. And for Julius, he's one of these animal companions. That connection with 3 also, by the way, that 33 and especially the 3 has to do with the Lyrans. The Lyran connection, and the Lyrans are very much, in my experience, associated with Akashic records, and especially in terms of the Akashic records and contracts between humans and animals. So Julius, he needed to stay in that location because his social contract with humans is tied to the ley lines, the energy of that land, and like the star alignment within that particular location. Had he moved too far, had he moved 2 inches to the left, it would have been different. So for him, he wants you to understand that this was just always part of his station, where he was supposed to be located. So he's not feeling abandoned. He's not feeling left behind. It's sort of like when we had friends who were diplomats, right? I attended an international school in Brazil. So a lot of, kids of diplomats kind of cycled in and out. And there were some kids who always stayed, the Brazilian and regular kids, we'd stay, but we'd have families cycle in and out who were wonderful friends for a couple years, maybe longer, but there was no abandonment. It was just a beautiful experience and waiting for the next one. So that's how Julius kind of puts it, is he's tied to those ley lines, and that planetary alignment within those ley lines, that's where his work is.
Does that help, Devrani?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you both.
Yeah, awesome. Good. I'm so glad. Yeah, 'cause trust me, I know how much hell I put myself through. So I get it. It just shows how deeply, you love Julius, so it's a wonderful heart connection.
And the thing to remember about our animal companions, and this is super counterintuitive when we're hugging and cuddling on them, they're, little beings. They're sentient little beings on their own. They too have missions. They too have, things that they're here to accomplish, things that they aspire to accomplish. And so, we tend to, because we love them so much and because we are their guardians, we tend to think of them as babies, but they're very much equals and partners. And just like, long distance relationships or, relationships that last for certain seasons and chapters and then move on, it's the same with them. But there's always a lot of love and gratitude in the lessons and moments shared, Julia says.
Nice. Good. Thank you. And yeah, Neo is my baby. There's just like, even though sometimes I look at him like, I know you're not a baby, but you know what? I need you to be my baby. So
that's it, right? We all have different relationships, different roles, and we all meet each other's needs and in the way that we've agreed to before even coming here. So
exactly. And sometimes he actually acts like a baby, which is like so cute. But I know he's just I don't know. He's just the best. The bestest. Again, how did I get so lucky? Oh my God, I'm so grateful for him. I really truly lucked out with both my human kids and my Neo. I definitely got lucky for sure. So Denise, I just want to take a few minutes and talk about the packages, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, it's super straightforward. Package A, I think we all benefit so much from having these, one-on-one readings together. So package A is a 30-minute intuitive reading with me. I always do a numerological assessment of your name, the pet's names, and then we go into, any questions you have. We go into the message your pets want to bring. And we're able to connect with animal companions here or transitioned, or maybe you never even had a pet, but you just feel drawn to the energy of animals. So the first item in package A is a 30-minute intuitive reading, and you get a recording of that as well, which is fun. And then the second item within package A is going to be an invitation to join our private membership group for the live oracle card reading. And usually when I do these invitations, it's just for 1 month to join us. But for this one, because we're in such like unique times and like building confidence and creating conviction is something that usually takes a little longer for us to like feel comfortable and step into. The invitation is for 3 months on this one. So package 1 is going to be one private 30-minute reading and then an invitation to join the next 3 live oracle card readings that are kind of a group setting.
Awesome. I'll add a note to that on the page as well. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
And then the third item is just select chapters from my book, Translating Your Pet's Behavior. Whether you have a pet, you had a pet at one point, but maybe don't, or you've never had a pet. A lot of people really enjoy this book because it speaks to the core of relationships. It helps you understand that, when we're, how our everyday interactions with our pets can really help us understand ourselves a little bit more. Spoiler alert, a lot of people read this and they're like, insert here the name of my child because my human child is kind of triggering me in similar ways. So you get select chapters from the book, which is all about bridging, dog training with personal development and kind of understanding when they're acting this way, what are they actually reflecting in ourselves that we need to look at?
Awesome. So that's package A. And then package B is everything in package A, plus the mindful approach to dog training full course bundle. So there's a lot in this item too. So I'm going to let Denise explain a little bit.
So this is a PDF that you receive that goes through all the behaviors you need to know if you're training your pet. It talks about setting your dog up for success, separation anxiety, managing unwanted behaviors like nipping, jumping, chewing, independence training, benevolent leadership. Every chapter kind of focuses on one of those topics and has, PDFs with like written information. It has how-to videos that you watch. You learn commands step by step. So this is if you were looking to either start fresh with training, a brand new puppy, or maybe help a longtime friend, just kind of build that communication, that connection, this is the package to do so. Because as we talked about in some of these readings, managing what's energetically at the root is helpful, but you also need to do the traditional training to see those shifts happen in our pet's behavior. And this takes, a unique and mindful approach to pet training. We do both in this resource. So like I said, it's managing and tackling all the behaviors that you need to work on with your pets. You learn the 7 basic obedience commands. There's meditations, there's activities to do with your pet, and videos to help kind of bring it all together so you really can kind of learn through it. And I thought this would be a great complement to a 30-minute reading, because then you kind of get what's going on in the energy, and then you get the practical tools to actually shift the behavior with these insights about why your pet is barking, nipping, chewing, or whatever it is that they're doing.
Absolutely. So again, these 2 packages, A and B, there are payment plans available for both. And of course, if you're an Inner Circle member, please use your gift code. I am going to change the membership live oracle card reading to say 3 months instead of just 1 month. So I'll change that later today. But definitely, please do take a look at these packages, see which one resonates with you. And as we know, Denise is like so spot on these readings, and so helpful, and sometimes gives you a different perspective on what's actually happening, right? So absolutely beautiful. I love it. That's why I always love it when Denise comes on, because I always learn so much about myself and my relationship with Neo, and it's just different ways of looking at things, and it's about learning about yourself as well, right? So it's not just about your pets, but it's also about looking at you, and who are you being, how are you interacting in the world, what's going on with you. So I love that. I mean, I'll be honest, it's like I get a personal reading with Denise every time she comes on. It's great. So helpful. So thank you, Denise.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And I always have so much fun, because it's like, obviously I just love talking about pets, about Neo, about just everything. And Lori's asking, so the reading is just for one pet?
No, within our 30 minutes, we can connect with as many energies as we have time for. So whether they're here, transition, 1 pet, 2 pet, whatever we have time for with the questions, the 30 minutes is yours. So we get to explore. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And Dana says, Denise's readings are amazing. She has brought me so much peace and wisdom over the past years. Oh, awesome. Good. So I was glad to hear that. And that says, a great package to become a great guardian to my pet. Yeah. And, guardian is one word. I don't know if I like guardian, because I just feel like it's for me, Neo's my child. It's like, 'cause he's my baby, he's my child. He's just an extension of me, If I would have given birth again, it would be to Neo, because I know it sounds weird, but
No,
he's
Gus
just my.
totally gets it. What was Marie France's dog, Gus? He's like, no, I hear you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly. Jill says, Denise is wonderful, and the reading I had changed my life. I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Yeah, great friend for sure. Yeah, Neo's my best friend for sure. Anything else you wanted to share, Denise? I know we were rushing, because I know we do have a hard stop, but I felt like there was I think we covered everything that we were supposed to, but any other last words of wisdom for us?
I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for sharing their pets, their energy, their stories, their vulnerabilities. Because as pet parents, sometimes we're not sure if it's okay to share certain things. We love them so much. They had so much value that sometimes we're like, I shouldn't be complaining, but we're not, right? As pet parents, we all get this. And having these conversations help us understand, 1, we're not alone. 2, it gives tips and tricks to each of us. Each reading I think we're all able to kind of garner a little bit out of. And if there's one thing that our animal companions kind of teach, and one good thing to kind of remind us and leave us all with, is that reminder that even when things feel a little swirly in the energy, there's a lot of big conviction and confidence energy coming from all sorts of places, remembering what the ducks and the geese the ducks and the chickens kicked us off with. We each can stand up for what we believe in this world. We're not fighting good versus bad. We're just trying to figure out, where do we fall? What do we believe in? What do we want to put out into the world? And then we create that free will and that choice. So it's not on any of us to fix anything, change anything, create anything. We just need to vibrate at a frequency that we feel is the most loving and high vibrational. And luckily, we have our pets who help hold that energy for us. We can just always match them when in doubt. So we've got this. Our pets have got this. They're leading the way. All we have to do is follow with an open heart. And thank you so much for inviting us here today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Denise. And Annie, sorry, I guess I missed your, I know you wrote somewhere, but she said, thank you for speaking to our animals' personal missions, Denise. I'm so aware I want to support that and not squelch that, especially with a once wild Mustang. She has much she is sharing. Grateful for you. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. And, and part of that is like, yes, our pets have their own personal missions, which we forget, right? So, and it's teaching us to remember our own personal missions as well, right? So step into your mission. What are you here to do? And we were talking at the beginning about the chickens and the ducks and the 9, and I was saying how it's a completion, and this is the last show of the season, so we're like completing the season. Right. So I'm so grateful, Denise, that we were able to make this work. I know we had to change, reschedule a couple of times. So thank you for accommodating me and all that stuff. It just, stuff happens, right? So thank you. I always love having you come on the show. It's so absolutely, you're like so talented and so gifted. And I love how you can communicate with not just our pets, but the animals in the wild, plus all the galactics, etc. Right? You're always communicating like with so many beings that you're communicating with. So thank you for your passion and purpose as well that you're sharing in the world. And thank you everybody for all your questions, comments, and feedback. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being vulnerable with us. And sometimes when I start talking about Neo, I get mushy. What can I say? But so thank you for indulging me, and thank you for being part of this amazing, wonderful season as well. So thank you. Yes, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Actually, our next season is starting in 2 weeks. So it's like, oh my goodness. So next 2 weeks are going to be rather busy just getting set up and getting everything ready. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all of you for allowing me to share this platform, allowing me to be myself when we are doing these shows. So I so appreciate all of you. And the recordings will be out in a little while. So please do stay tuned for those. Go back and watch and listen. And of course, if you can, please do work with Denise in package A or package B. Again, she's amazing. And she can really give you the answers that you need. Now, I know Denise has to go, so I'm just going to end this now. So thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, may you continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health. Sending you all so much love and blessings. See you in 2 weeks, if not before. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Much love and blessings. Bye for now.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Love you. Bye, everyone. Bye for now.